When it comes to financial literacy, 80% of teens and young adults say that they really need a much further education. Of that, 73% also looking and inquiring when it comes to picking up more of a financial education. Now, majority of what we get from financial literacy does come from our parents. And unfortunately for most of us, just like me, if you have parents that are not very financially sound, they are going to have children that are not very financially sound. So in this video, we're going to be looking at the financial literacy principles for young adults and teens, really breaking it down in some of the fundamentals we are going to get further into in future videos. We're using this one kind of as an overview for what you can focus on. Now, the first one, guys, is budgeting. This is the basics. This is the point where your parent should be sitting down with you, or someone who is professional, such as myself, within financial counseling, being able to sit down and create a budget. This not only makes a big difference when you're young, but it also does put in the fundamentals of building a budget. If you're looking at it every 2 weeks, if you're looking at it once a month, even again, when you're starting a new job, even if you don't have a job at this point, guys, you have to know what exactly you're spending. So to start a budget, you really need to understand your income, which is the basis. It is the number one most powerful tool that you have, is your income. Again, if you're working, even if it's an allowance in your teen years, how are you budgeting and how are you utilizing the money that you are earning? Listing out the expenses. What do you have for obligations? Some kids have to pay for their car payments. Some kids do have to pay for cell phone bills. We've even seen insurance, coffees, trinkets, movies, things of that nature. Anything you want in your life, how are you budgeting for those expenses? And also, how do you organize those expenses? What are things that are very important, such as food, entertainment, when you're looking again at a younger generation? Those are the primary things that it revolves around. You're not looking at mortgages. Most of you are not looking at car payments. Student loan payments, things of that nature might not be in the budgeting yet, but they are something too is going to be coming down the road. And also keeping that up to date. That is right, guys. Making sure that you're adjusting the budget as you need. If you're going from high school, or if you're in high school and you're going on to college, what are going to be the added expenses that you're going to be incurring when you take that step or the next step into life? Second part we look at is savings. This again is a very important part. There has to be fundamentally, when you're starting to look at financial independence, financial freedom, you have to remember the unexpected expenses, emergency expenses, or things that you can cover that you don't have to rely on your parents for. This again goes back to having that emergency fund. Even as a teen, again, we are setting the groundwork for the fundamentals and the financial principles. When it comes to growing up, you're always going to have that emergency fund because it is something that you did as a young adult. Now, some of the saving tips for teens: follow a formula. Remember, income minus your expenses equals the savings that you're going to have. We've talked about compounding interest. We've talked about a lot of different things on this channel. The younger and the more frequently that you invest, even at a younger age, the more you can offset the expenses you have in your life with more income, makes a big difference. Cutting back on deliveries, online shopping, online food, DoorDash, things of that nature. It is a very small expense, but when you add it up, and again, creating this budget is huge, because that's right. If you're paying another $3, $5, $7, whatever it may be, kind of here and there, it adds up to entire meals, or it adds up to entire bills when you're starting to get the small expenses. And we see this very frequently when it comes to subscriptions or memberships. They add up and they eat into the income that you get. Avoid using credit cards. That is right, guys. Building good credit at this point is super important. However, you do not want to get into credit card debt, and I will repeat that. You want to make sure that you pay off your balance in full. You are not carrying a balance on those cards to really build your credit at this point, which again, going back to the parents, if parents have had issues with credit cards, a lot of parents say that credit cards are bad. Never use credit cards. Credit cards are evil. Credit cards are a tool to build your credit, to make things cheaper for the rest of your life, guys. It is really a building point, paying the balances off in full, living within inside your means. And also, again, the biggest drawback with this is if you're going into and not saving money, this could be your fallback to using some of the emergency fund or some of the expenses that fall into the credit card. Do not fall into the trap, guys. You want a very low limit credit card to establish credit and paying it off every single month. Now, one another thing you have to remember about is taxes, guys. If you're working, if you have a part-time job, it is kind of a rite of passage, but when you have a part-time job, you are also required to pay taxes. A lot of employers do have a lot of different tips and tools and different things. If you're making so much dollars an hour, let's say you're making, starting out $15 an hour, you're not actually making $15 an hour. And that is another part that, again, teens, young adults never realize until you see that first paycheck. Let's say you work 10 hours, you get $150, you bring home $115. That is right, guys. Welcome to taxation. That is what we're seeing. Making sure the net income is different than a gross income income. That is really a big change in there. Familiarize yourself with tax brackets and see if you are tax exempt. Now, there are a lot of jobs that are tax exempt or different income types that are tax exempt depending on how you're doing it. Now, another big focus, guys, is borrowing. When we get into these, again, the younger years, when we get into the teen years, going into college, even looking at the young adults, you have to be super diligent about preventing debt as a teen or as a young adult, guys. You really have to think of the borrowing as what is good and what is bad debt. Good debt, of course, makes interest payment worth the amount of the loan. You're paying your cards off in full. Student loans are really the biggest point of the biggest hurdle that you're going to have as a teen. Again, going into those young adult years, don't get into the credit card debt, guys. Credit cards run about 32% interest, which is just the ultimate when you're looking at how high and how fast the juice is running in those accounts, guys. 32% interest. Use your credit cards wisely. Track and monitor the credit score. I, again, cannot stress this enough. You have to know where your credit score is. If, let's say, you start at 18, you get a new card, it's got a $500 limit, you're using it every month, you're paying it off every month, all of a sudden your credit score is about 650, 660, maybe even 680, depending how long you've been doing this. Then, of course, a year or two down the road, you need a new car. You get a solid, well-priced used car for, let's say, $10,000. Chances are you're going to get a very low rate on that auto loan because you have well-established credit history, making things, again, with the better credit score, cheaper for your entire life, which is a huge focus. The final piece of this is the investing piece. Like we said, with the compounding interest, when you're a teen, now is the time to start the 401ks, to start the IRAs, to start a lot of the investment, because remember, income minus expenses gives you what you can save and what you can invest. When you're going through the budgeting and knowing exactly how many dollars you need every single month, anything above and beyond that, you can start investing. Because what's going to happen eventually is when that nest egg, when that investing portfolio starts building, they're going to start paying you. It is not going to be you that is paying out a bunch of money that is going in interest, that is getting eaten up by credit cards and by auto loans, unsecured loans, things of that nature. You're actually on the other side of the equation where banks and institutions will pay you for the money that you have. Also, when it comes down to a point of, let's say you do need a car, there is an emergency expense, something of that nature, you already have the money there that is available for you. Now, this, again, we're going to break down all of these in a lot of different methodologies over the next couple videos, guys. Wanted to give the overlying principle of the financial literacy, really breaking it down. This is something that is so sorely missed when it comes to school. This is something, again, that is not taught in traditional schooling. Even having kind of collaborations and being in the schools around the area here, financial literacy and financial principles are not taught. They are not taught, which is kind of crazy to think that this is something, again, fundamentally that should be taught in school, that we're trying to get out there. And again, 75% of people are looking for more information, just like the YouTube channel we have here. So guys, that'll do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you like the content that I'm providing, please subscribe to the channel, guys. We are almost to 400 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. So again, let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.